There you go. Yeah, because I need Peter to do the, I think it's a 3-factor authentication now for recording. And have you ever tried to organize 3 photographers across 2 continents via SMS? I can tell you, it doesn't happen. Yeah, yeah. Sister. Okay, so we're recording to the cloud, and we will give permission on the other computer to say, yes, you can record us. There we are. Okay, let me, that's probably a good view from there. All right, so up here, I'll share my screen. That's all good. And I'm going to be over there. I've got my earpiece in, so you should be able to hear me relatively well. Let me shut down these things so they don't get notifications. But yeah, I won't see the chat if you're writing. So if you do want to draw my attention to something, you will be better off shouting at me than anything else. Okay. So we've got one light. I've got a flex panel. I figured I would do this with a flex panel or 1x3 because I think pretty much all of us have got a flex panel or an equivalent size and shape of strip box with a strobe. So should be something that we can all have a play around with. I have also got in here a piece of foam core to use as a reflector. My intention with this today is only to use it as you might use a wall, i.e. I'm not going to be putting it underneath to get bounce up from here or doing anything kind of fancy with it, but just to show, you know, if you move your setup closer to a wall, you can get some bounce fill, which I'm sure you will know, but I just want to, you know, demonstrate that. And I might at some point later on use a table, and so the same thing goes for the table. Like there'll be some bounce of light coming up from the table, but not as a what's the word, a dedicated reflector. Just that's what happens when you have a surface and you shine light at it. Some of it bounces back, or some of it bounces in some directions, let's say. So I've got the camera set up here with a 28-70 zoom so that you can see a lot of what's going on. I'm going to pay more attention to kind of letting you see what's going on than to the accurate kind of framing that I would want for the pictures themselves. I'm just going to tilt up a little like that and just drop it a little lower. If we zoom into that, zoomed to 50, which is kind of where I like to be a lot of the time, but we can pull back so you can see what's going on and get the idea. And then without the flex panel switched on, I've just got to try and recreate kind of daylight conditions. I've got a light going into the ceiling here. The ceiling here is very high. It's 14.5 feet, and it's a little 60-watt light that's just pointing into the ceiling because it's getting dark. By the time we finish this, it will be dark outside. So this is just to simulate kind of the ambient light that you would have in the daytime in a studio. There's no particular direction to it. It's just coming generally in from the ceiling. So there we are. So it's not to shoot in a completely dark black box kind of scenario. So I'm going to take the power on the flex panel to 30. Reason I'm doing that is that's where my headshots, kind of Peter Hurley style headshot settings, take me to. So if you're shooting a triangle in a Peter Hurley configuration, you can use whatever your power setting would be for one flex panel in that setup and then replicate what we're doing here. Of course, adjust to taste, but this is just the starting point. So you've got a reference point. This is as bright as I have the panel when I'm shooting a Peter Hurley triangle headshot configuration. So there you go. Well, let's start. First things first. We'll keep the panel in its upright kind of configuration. We won't go horizontal just yet. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to tilt it over in much the same way that you might do when you are building your triangle. So when I do a triangle, I've got it tilted over something like this. That looks good there. And oh, sorry, I didn't introduce Valentina. This is Valentina. You can look down there. There you go. If you want to speak to Valentina, you have to speak in Italian. She only responds to Italian. Okay. Does anyone here speak Italian?
Portuguese.
That's close. I mean, can you hear? You can't hear any of the audio, can you?
Ciao, Bella is about it.
Ciao. Ciao.
Ciao, Bella. They're saying ciao, Bella. There you go. Okay. She actually can't hear you because I'm on the earpiece so that I can hear you. So there we are. Let's just zoom in a little bit.
So she doesn't hear. I want to tell you now. She gave us a smile, but she looked like she was mad at you or something. For that.
Apparentemente sembravi incazzata con me. She is. She is. There you go. I made dinner. Was it not good?
Wow.
Okay. She's joking. She's pulling my leg. Okay. We're just going to have Valentina look straight into the lens here and just push the head forward just a little for me. Bring the chin slightly lower. That's perfect. Just there. I'm just going to get that in focus and lift up here. So characteristics of one light pictures. It gives us lots of opportunity to have quite contrasty images, right? Lots of strong shadow. I'm just going to get Valentina just to follow here with her head just there and just tilt slightly like that. Perfect. I hope you can see on the screen there the really immediate transition across the camera right cheekbone into shadow there. I mean, she's got particularly good cheekbones, so we're quite fortunate in that regard. I'm just going to move the reflector in a little closer so that you can see the difference. Actually, first of all, I'm going to take it away completely. So that's with there's now a piece of black card or blackboard just there, so we get a really deep shadow with a wall or something white and soft. It's a diffused card nearby. We get a little bit of bounce fill, and then if we bring it in close enough that it comes into frame, you can see we're just softening up or reducing. I'm going to try and be precise with my language here. We're reducing the apparent contrast in the image there. So what I like to do if I'm setting up a shot like this very often is not have anything reflecting light in, so that I can be precise with the positioning of my light, get that exactly where I want it, and then manage the contrast by bringing it closer to the wall or to the card or the V flat or whatever it is that we're doing. So I want that shadow to be pronounced, but I don't want it to be completely pitch black for this shot. That's not what I'm going for. Okay, I'd like you to guardami qui. No, così, con gli occhi, perfetto. Ecco. Dimmi il tuo formaggio preferito? Piccante o dolce? Che fa un pesce sulla spiaggia? No. I'm trying to get a little smile here. No, nothing. She's heard all my lines already. Oh, lovely. So that's about like the simplest thing. Non ti guardare. She's going to keep looking at herself. The simplest thing you can do there with just the one light is essentially it's the triangle, but with the other two lights removed, right? Great place to start. Start with the triangle, remove the two lights, and you're looking for the same kind of pattern in the light. Let's see what else we can do with this. So if you've ever seen me shoot before with a flex panel, you know that I like to put them horizontal. So I'm going to do that now. And I'm going to have Valentina look directly into the camera here. I'm going to get the flex panel just above the height of the lens and bring it in so that it's about 1/3 of it is above the lens and to the camera right of the lens, and the other 2/3 are off to the left. So here I'm going to have Valentina look straight down the lens again and really push forward with the head, spingi in avanti con la testa e un po' giù, ecco lì, perfetto. This one, if I just zoom in a little more, there. Fai una faccia un po' più intelligente. No. Non ridere. No. Yeah. So that's a really quite a flat kind of setup. Continua a guardare qui un attimino. But you can still see that we're getting more shadow on the camera right side than on the camera left side. So it's got a bit of direction to it, but really not much. And in this setup, moving the bounce card or the wall or whatever it is in or back, it's still noticeable, but it's much less pronounced, the effect, because most of the light is coming in from the front rather than being so directional and coming in from the sides. So you can get that really quite, it's perhaps simpler to manage. It's probably the easiest one light setup with the flex panel. I'm actually going to go in and just flip the camera to a black and white. Just need to probably overexpose it a third or maybe even 2/3 of a stop. And you can see that in black and white, that shape becomes more evident and really quite nice. Quite enjoy that. Guardami qui di nuovo. Dimmi una cosa che rimpiangi. Rimpiangi. Lovely. Thank you. Let's just go back to color because I do like that a bit more for seeing what we're doing. There we go. Okay, so 2 simple setups straight away. Nothing groundbreaking, nothing earth-shattering, but simple, effective. I should say, after seeing this, if you don't all submit something for the portrait probe this month, I shall have to assume that either you don't have a camera anymore or there are no human beings near to you whatsoever. Okay. Let's do something a little bit more, a little further away from headshot land then. So I'm going to put this here. And I'm going to have Valentina turn towards me here. Turn with your whole body. That's good. Just there. And then follow my finger with your nose. just there. Resta qui. So I'm going to have her stay just here, and I'm going to move the position of the light until I see just the right amount of light in here, in this triangle. That's a function of how far, I think you can maybe see me better on that one there, how far this way I'm moving the light, but also how far I'm swinging it towards and away. So if I bring it to here, that's a good amount of light on the far side cheek, but I'm getting too much light in here for my liking. So I'm gonna go like that or like that. Ooh, see how that's getting me a darker background? That's nice there. Let me just bring that out a tiny touch more. Lovely. Ok. Piccolo movimento qui. Ecco. Spingi avanti un po'. E fai la faccia come sei concentrata sul quella gorgonzola. Gli occhi solo qui. Ecco, ecco. Leggermente giù con la testa. Lì. Madonna, sei bello. Ecco, ecco. There's the little smile. Just a little compliment goes a long way. Perfect. So, super simple, right? We've just got the one flex light. Rimani lì un attimino. I'm just going to show you what happens on this one. If we take that wall out, we get a more dramatic, deeper shadow, as you would expect. But it's still legible in there. We can still see the detail in here, even though there's no bounce coming in at all. And we can move her nearer to a wall if we want, and really, really even that up if we bring that in super close. There you go. Nice and simple. What else can we do? What else can we? Let's see what happens if we bring a light in from an extreme angle from, oops, from the top. Now for this, it's important to make sure that your fasteners are done up, because we don't want this to accidentally fall down and bat our model in the head. I have insurance, but you know. Okay. So I've got the model in the same position as we had previously, same mood. What I'm doing here, I hope you can see this on the other camera, is I've got the flex panel over almost, it's not quite 90 degrees parallel. It's not parallel to the floor, but it's very, very close to that. Really steep. And it's directly in front of her. So there's minimal spill onto the background here, and almost no spill onto the background on the far side. And what I can do with this setup to finesse the look is just adjust the height. So as I bring this higher, you can see that the effect, it's less close. There's less intimacy to the portrait like this, because the light is more general. It's not as contrasty. It's not as concentrated in on her face. As I bring this down, boom. You see how that's much more, the feeling of that portrait is much closer, much more intimate, much more dramatic, I suppose, as well, because we've got the light a lot closer to the subject. So the fall off to dark in the cheekbone here is much quicker and much more severe. Again, here, I've still got this bounce card masquerading as a wall. If I move it out completely, or move it in completely, there's again a not particularly pronounced difference because the light is so close to her that the bounce card is making less of a difference. If you get it in super close like that, then it starts to even up. Much less dramatic. We lose all that feeling of closeness and intimacy. So I prefer this look with a lot deeper shadow. I think that makes for a much nicer shape there. Okay. Where else can we go with this? What else can we do with one flex light? Let's do a straightforward split light. Girati così guardi direttamente lì. Okay. So what I want to do with this is not have any light spilling onto the camera right eye or cheek. So I can achieve that by bringing the light back here. The camera right side of the image now looks the way I want it to look. However, it doesn't do me any favors on this side because I've got a very, very hot ear. So we don't want that. What we want to do is bring the light round to here and then angle it.
You're kind of out of the frame, so we can't see. Are you bringing it forward or back?
Can you see it? Can you see it in this camera here?
I'm not.
No?
No, I maybe it's flanked. It's blocked by the white card on this side. Oh,
Oh,
no,
sorry.
very edge.
I'm sorry. Is that any better?
All good.
Oh, thank you. So what I was doing there is, if I just simply move this light forward and backwards in this plane, I can achieve the darkness that I want on that side, but I'm also going to highlight the subject's ear, which we want to kind of avoid. It doesn't have to be in complete darkness. So what I'm going to do, I just want it to be darker than the front of the face. What I'm going to do instead is move the light back a bit and then feather it forward. And then I'm just going to bring this to somewhere here. This is going to be one of those situations where more power is going to be necessary. So I'm going to pump up the power on the flex panel so that it overpowers, hopefully, the ambient. And we may need a little bit of ambient control. So let's artificially do that this way and get rid of our bounce cards. There we go. That's more like it. Now we don't need to do it completely. So now we've got a split light. The front of the cheek here is lighter than the ear, which it's not a rule, but it's as close as we get to having rules on portrait track, I would say. Unless the shot is about the ear, you kind of don't want it to be brighter than the cheek. Obviously, we could pump the contrast a bit more in post-production if we wanted to. In fact, I think I'm just going to go black and white on it there. There you go. So you get the idea. The camera wants to focus on the eye that it can't see. That's artificial intelligence for you. Well done, Canon. And I'm going to have you look straight in there. Ho una faccia un po' preoccupata. Lovely. So I'm not sure if you can fully see that on the screen. Let me turn that back up so you've got a chance of seeing me. But the flex panel here, the plane that it's in, it's pointed there. So it's pointed away from Valentina, away from the model, a huge amount. It's massively feathered off, and that's how we get the brightness that we want on the front of the face without getting it on the cheek, on the ear, sorry. Another way that you could achieve that, of course, is to use some kind of flag, i.e. some kind of card or something that comes in like that, just there. Le mani esattamente lì, guarda direttamente dentro, dentro, sai cosa è? Sì. There. So, very similar effect, using a flag to block the light rather than the positioning of the light itself as being the means of creating the shape that we want. Okay, we're going to continue being creative. Let me see what else we can do here. It should be noted, we're making this up as we go along. Okay, this is what I love about the job that we do, is that people pay me to do this. I'm just playing, making stuff up as I go along. As long as you look at what you're doing before you press the shutter, not much can go horribly wrong. Girati verso qua, 90 gradi. Proprio lì. Okay. So this could be an interesting take on the one light theme, should you wish. If I point the panel directly at the wall, I've got it's not a wall, it's a canvas. It's a fairly light, not quite white, but it's a fairly light gray. And with that, I can, let me just pull back a little, create a nice silhouette. And then with just a tiny bit of finessing, just letting the light spill out a tiny bit more, maybe if I bring the light down a tiny bit more, I can actually put a minuscule amount of light onto the top of her cheekbone in the eye socket there. So you just pull out a tiny let's go there. A tiny bit of detail that makes it look more recognizably, well, it still looks like a human face, but you know what I mean? It gives you a tiny bit more detail to read the expression if you can just see into that little bit of the eye there. So I would just bring this down a little more in order to be able to do that, and just pull it back a little bit there. Excellent. Chiudi gli occhi leggermente, ecco. Spingi in avanti, ecco. Perfetto, grazie. There we go. So on those shots, as well as seeing just the top of the cheekbone here, when I have her close her eyes, you also get the little highlights on the front of the eyelids, which gives you the shape of the eye, but also it gives you an expression, right? The eyes closed, a pose with eyes closed suggests your subject is thinking, lost in thoughts, experiencing some kind of emotion or brain activity going on. So exactly the same shape of light. Literally, I've just pulled the light closer to the camera position, and we go from having the silhouette. Let me just open up the exposure. There, we go from having the silhouette to having this really nice contrasty Chiudi di nuovo. Spingi leggermente avanti con il mento. Ecco, perfetto, grazie. Really nice contrasty shape. Segui il mio dito un attimino là. Ecco. Really nice contrasty shape, so we get a deep shadow under the cheekbone and under the jawline. Sorry, did somebody jump in and say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna
Love
say I
this one.
love this one. Yeah, I'm really liking it. I couldn't stop myself from saying it.
Thank you. So it's look, you can see how simple this is, right? All you need is somebody who will sit still for you for a few minutes, and you just move around them with the light until you find the shape that you like. Once you find the shape that you like, you can increase the apparent contrast of it by moving the lights closer to them. Boom, look at that. I mean, now that's getting on for, that's an album cover for when she does her soul album or something, right? Or we can decrease the apparent contrast by pulling the light further away. So the overall contrast gets a little bit more diminished. I'm a fan of the contrast, so I like to keep the lights in fairly close. And then, of course, as we've said before, if you do that near to a wall, I'll just show you on this setup here. If we bring that in behind, it doesn't alter the shape of the image. It just gives us that little bit of extra detail in the neck and the back of the hairline. That's all. Even if it's in real close like that. So there you go. But that's a really nice shape to shoot in black and white as well, because it's all about the kind of the parallel lines of the cheekbone and the jawline. If you've got a subject that you can do that on. If you were shooting me, that might not work because the beard kind of obscures the jawline. And if somebody's wearing clothes that kind of obscure the jawline, maybe it's not the right shape. But this kind of thing is great for anyone that's got an interesting head shape, interesting nose profile, all of those kind of strong features, essentially, I'd say. Someone who's got strong features of any description is going to look good in this. Let's get a table. Let's get a table. Bear with me 1 second. Let me pull back here. Have I got a table? We can make a table. Girati verso qua, verso la macchina, grazie. Oh, scusa. Ti prego? No. Okay. And I'm going to get a table that is a piece of white wood, or you could get a non-white table and throw a piece of white cloth over it, or a piece of foam core or whatever. And I'm going to bring this up really quite high. Allora, voglio che sì, così, proprio appoggiata sul, ecco, metti questa un po' più. Perfetto. Vabbè. Ciao. Come va? Bene. Let's go back to color. And I'm going to get the camera in low and close, like that. I'm actually going to bring the table down 1 centimeter. appoggiati di nuovo. Vuoi che riesci a inclinare la testa leggermente più in là? Ecco,
Sì.
sì. Quindi porta le mani, ecco. Troppo. È troppo.
Ah,
Ecco, sì. Ecco, thank you. So just playing with the head position. And then what I'm going to do with the light here, so obviously we're going to use the fact that we've got a white table to get a lot of bounce. And I'm going to put the flex panel again in at that real kind of extreme. Oh, I'm not good at, I didn't pay attention to this bit in maths, but what's that like? 10 degrees, 15 degrees up from horizontal, something like that. It's nowhere near 45. And then I'm going to get it super close like that. So let me just. There. That looks nice like that. And then the finessing in this shot is with where you place the light, how far off to the side we place it. So here, it's right next to the camera. But because we're so low, because the light's so close to the subject, we're still able to see very definitely the direction of the light. There's much more shadow here than here. This flex panel is pushing the light all into the table. There's a gap of maybe 6 inches between the front line of the light and where our subject's head is. So she's getting a lot of bounce light compared to direct light. And that way we're not making the eyes go all socketed out and dark, but we are getting a lot of contrast here to give us that sense of direction to the light. Again, I've got this bit of white card in here. If I take it out completely, it's not massively different. If I bring it in close, it evens up slightly. Only if I bring it in so far, so close that it's actually in the frame, does it make a real kind of significant difference. So we don't even really need it for this shot. I'm just going to put it back on its stand there, just so it's doing its thing. Guardami, guardami, guardami. Qual è il tuo animale preferito? Perfect. Just to show you the difference, we're going to keep everything the same and lift the light back up, keep it in exactly the same position, but just higher up. So now we're starting to lose the contrast, lose the intimate feel, lose the sense of closeness that we had in that portrait. So it's quite literal, I think, in that sense with light. The closer you put your light, very often, the closer you get of a feeling to your subject in the resulting picture. I just want to check on the chat here. Slava, you didn't know that I speak Italian? I lived there for 12 years. I learned a thing or two. So, anyone got any comments or questions so far, or anything? Any suggestions for where we should go next? When you want to see me do with the light? Got nothing. Where are you all? All there.
I have a question, Ivan.
Sure.
So this is more like the sitting portraits. What if we were to make her stand? What can we do with one light while a person is standing?
Sure. Okay, let's do that. Ti devi mettere in piedi. So the reason that I had Valentina's tip for this is because most of my time is and attention is talking to you on the Zoom call, and I didn't want her to be bobbing around and moving. So having her sit down limits the amount that she's going to move, right? But absolutely, we can have the subject stand up and do something with that. Ishbal, is the idea here to include more more body in the frame and not be so close with the framing? Is that what you're asking for?
Yes, sir. So say a client comes and they got a headshot done and they got the table shot done, and now they're asking for, say, half body.
Half body. Okay. Yeah.
So I'm just trying to get some inspiration.
Sure. So
Thank you, Ivan.
So we're going to go half body, but on Valentina's request, we're not going to photograph the skirt because it clashes with the shirt. Looks like she's wearing pajamas. She's worried. So something like that. Okay. Let's say there. So we can pretty much do the same things that we were doing before. Obviously, the same principles apply. Light is light. We're going to be a little further away with the light than we were when we were close up head and shoulders, just because we want to include more in the frame. So I've got the light around about 45 degrees. It's tipped over, what's that? I don't know, 15, 20 degrees or something like that, which makes for a nice shape. I want to get a bit more light into the right side of her face, the camera right side of her face. So I'm going to do that by tilting the light this way. You see that difference that it's making there. So I tilt the light. So a bit more, a portion of the light panel is now directly over the lens. And having done that, I've also slightly lowered it. So I'm just going to lift it up and go there. There we are. Can open up. That looks nice. Okay. Stay with me. Is that second position? No. What is that? It's no position at all. I didn't do any dance training. Okay. Just let your hands go behind your back perfectly. Like that.
I believe this is the fifth.
That's the fifth position, a quinta. Yeah. No, there you go. Fifth is something that if I tried to do, you'd hear a snapping sound and then an ambulance with my
Maybe I even
46-year-old knees. It's not going to
Maybe I
happen.
even need to take the fifth.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that has no legal value in the UK.
Or
But,
drink a fifth.
Drink a fifth. I like this. Okay. There. So, lungo qui. È perfetto, ecco. Dammi un po' di sarcasmo. Riesci? Segui qua. Gli occhi perfetto. Hai mai rubato qualcosa? Ti hanno beccato? Sei un criminale? Fammi serio un secondo. Sì. I'm just noticing we've got quite a bit of flyaway stuff going on here. Darker background would sort that out, but there we are. Always gets a smile. There we go. So super simple there. Of course, as I said, you can do anything that we did previously. Let's bring this back to the horizontal. Is that going to hold? Yes, that is going to hold. And just lift it up so that it's out of frame, but then tilt it down. There. So that's the equivalent of where we were with the seated portrait. Not particularly dramatic, not particularly interesting light-wise. Let's see if we can do a half body with the kind of silhouette, half silhouette that we got earlier. So I'm going to take this back over here. Girati verso qua e spostati lì. Thank you. Let's see. I'm going to, again, just require a bit more ambient control. So this might be best done in a very dark room, or just blocking off your work area with some V-flats. There, thank you. Now to get the shape that we want. Sembri gobba? Cioè il tifoso della Fiorentina? That looks good. And again, if I just open this up slightly, difficult for me to see at this distance on the screen, so I'm actually just looking directly at her face. Non fare la spiritosa. This is the problem when you have a non-professional model. She jokes around. I did the jokes, okay? Okay. So just looking from here, we just get the pure outline of the head. And then as we bring it in here, so with a half body shot, now I've got that little bit of light on the top of her cheek, but also you can start to see a bit of detail on the front of the shirt. You can start to see the color. So you can imagine if somebody was wearing a more open shirt, or a white shirt, or a dress that had some kind of glitter to it or something like that, you could do this setup here. So we're creating this lovely shape across the front of the chest and up the front of the face, but getting a really nice transition into the deep shadow here, set against the light background. So we get a silhouette on this side. What's the word for that? Is that a faux silhouette, a hemi silhouette, a demi silhouette, something like that? Just enough to read the expression, just enough to read the shape, just enough to read the detail of what clothes the subject is wearing. I guess the idea here is just to reveal enough of the clothing to get a sense of who they are without actually seeing all of it. And then for the framing, I would just want to lift that slightly higher. There. There. Something like that. What do you reckon, Ishpal? Can you do that?
Yes, I can. I'm just thinking that, the silhouettes, how am I gonna use them?
How are you going to use them?
Yes, like, what would a client use a silhouette for? I
For
know that
looking cool.
very powerful people, they have their side portraits and silhouettes.
Mhm.
But I like it. I like it.
So I strongly think on that, Ishpal, you create the photography that you want to create and let your client decide if they like it and want to buy it. Don't try and second guess them, right? Give them the options. If my client today doesn't buy the silhouette picture, I'm getting paid to practice how to make silhouette pictures. And then when I have a client that does want it, I know exactly how to do it. You see how that works?
Yes.
So if you take some silhouette pictures, using the silhouette as an example, and put them on your website, you may have people show up saying, I want to do that. Can you do that for me? If you haven't got that in your portfolio to show them or on your website to show them, it's unlikely that they're going to ask for it, right? So you create the demand is what I would say.
Yeah.
So Enid's asking, what focal length are you using? So for the purposes of demonstration, I'm on 28 to 70 zoom so that I can pull back and show you. I think most of them have been shot around the 40 to 50 mark. Most of my work is 50, or not too far either side. So what you've seen today will be maximum between 35 and 70, but probably 40 to 60. So give or take, call it a 50 and just stand a bit closer or a bit further away. There you go. Let's see any other. There we go. Cool.
Ivan, I had a question.
Sure.
Currently, right now, you have the light, from what I can see on the image from the computer, I guess, is that you've got the light approximately a foot closer to the background and aimed right between her and the background. So only thing she's getting is spill.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So if you want me to actually tell you the detail, I have a tape measure here.
Okay.
And I will. So distance from the background to the edge of the flex panel that's closest to the background is 15 inches. Distance from the background to the edge of the flex panel that's furthest from the background is 27 inches because the panel is turned rather towards the background a little bit.
So
and then the distance from the flex panel to the middle of Valentina's face is about 11 inches. So yeah, you were pretty much there with a foot and a foot, give or take. Yeah.
And the top of the light panel, you have it leaning towards her about 30 degrees or 45?
No, in what you're seeing right now, the light is perpendicular. But certainly that's one of those things that you would finesse depending. Actually, that's just given me, if you lift your chin up, just here. If you wanted to do something like that, then that might be a situation where you would tilt the light over a bit more to really highlight the top, because the plane that we want to highlight is no longer here if your subject is tilting their head back, right? But that's also going to depend very much on the actual face shape of the person. people have very different cheek profiles and nose profiles and all of that. So yeah, you can certainly tilt it over more or less to kind of finesse the shot. But I would set it up to begin with just perpendicular to the ground, just as a
Okay.
starting point.
Could I ask for another setup if it's not too much trouble?
Sure. What do you want to see?
Okay. Let's have her take a look straight at the camera.
Okay, guarda direttamente qui.
Okay, just turn her.
Like shoulder, girati. I'll have to translate. Yep.
Okay. And then what I'd like to do is only light the left side of her face, where the right side of her face is totally black and the background black.
Well, we did that already.
Oh, you did? I'm sorry. I just came in late.
Okay. Well, I'll do it again. I will do it again. So, what we're going to do. So what I mean, yeah, there's no harm in redoing this. So what I said with this setup, metti così un po' di più e spingi in avanti un po', ecco. Lì. So we'll have Valentina stay there for a second. What I said with this is, if we have the light pointed directly at our subject, i.e. perpendicular to the background, we can get that very strong split light. Oops, I've run over a foot. Simply by moving the light along in this plane, perpendicular to the camera, until we find the shadow point just there. So we've now got no light here, but we've got a very bright ear and we've got lots of spill onto the background. So you've got two choices at this point, and you could combine them as well if you want. First one, if you've got no other equipment to hand, is to feather your light towards the camera. And as you do that, your background goes black and your ear, your subject's ear, gets darker. You might have to just bring the light back a little further there. So you can do that and then push the contrast in post. The
Okay.
other way that you can do it is having your light here and then using some kind of flag. Whoa,
Okay.
too far. I've got auto exposure on, so it's getting confused now.
The problem I've incurred, I've had someone ask for this particular shot, and basically they wanted the right-hand side of the image to be totally black so they could have text for
Yep.
the branding shoot going right down the text. And I was trying to get the left-hand side to be properly lit without doing this all in Photoshop. Do you see how her camera left eye has the big shadow?
Yes.
Okay, so I would just have a black paper back there to be able to drop off the light. But how do I reduce that shadow on the other side of the eye? And that's the little side issue I've had.
You want to reduce this shadow here?
Yes.
Okay. Laws of physics, right? If you want to reduce shadow, you point light in it. So we go for a more forward light. So we're bringing the light in front of the subject now, there.
Mhm.
But then we need to block it from the background. So you bring the flag into play.
I've done that, but if you still take a look, I get the inside of the eye and the outside of the eye to have the same density of light, is where I've incurred the problem. I've even used a reflector on your right arm, trying to get a touch more light in there, and I've still had that issue.
So what you want the left left side of the face to be lit from the front, but no
Yeah.
light spilling anywhere else.
Correct. Okay. I guess it's just a game to be played and just keep going and going.
Yeah. But so remember the laws of physics, right? Light will go where you point it. If a bit of your picture is too dark, point more light at it. If a bit of your picture is too light, don't point so much light at it. And you can do that with, obviously I'm very roughly improvising here with these 2 bits of cards,
Yep.
but you would just set it up so that you've got a strip of light coming in the direction that you want, i.e. from the front off to one side, but basically from camera position, and use the flags to block it from going anywhere else in the frame. And then you're going to have a black background and a black right side of your subject's face. Totally doable.
Okay. No, I've been trying to play with barn doors, and then I've been trying to play with flags.
Yeah.
I've just got to hire someone to get in here just so I can sit there and just practice on them.
So the barn doors won't do it for you because the barn doors are too close to the light source and too far away from the subject.
Mm-hmm.
Flags will allow you to get closer to your subject and further away from your light. Therefore, you get a much more defined edge of shadow, which is what you want to be as precise as you need it to be. Make sense?
Totally. Thank you, Evan.
You're welcome.
I hope we didn't repeat everything we've done.
the game for you there to get that exactly as you want it is to work out how far back to pull the light in order to get the precision of definition of the line of shadow created by your flag on your subject's face, because there's only so far you can move your flag towards your subject before it's going to be getting in the picture. So that's your absolute limit in terms of how close you can get the flag to the subject. So then the only other thing that you can vary in order to sharpen up the shadow is to move the light further back. And for that, you need 2 stands or a person to help you do that. I can't do that here by myself because I need to hold both currently.
No.
You get the idea. You get the idea. You can see where you need to experiment, and it's going to be different for every shot because within a range it's going to be the same concept, but you need to work differently with each person that you take a picture of in each scenario.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, no, constantly. Currently, right now, I'm just doing a lot of dodging, burning afterwards to try to fill in certain spots. But I'm just trying to, try to get as much in camera than you can before you get to have to play with all the rest.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I see from Carla, can we wrap something around the ponytail to make it stand out from the head more? Oh, that's just the head. That's a styling issue. I mean, yeah, I'm not a hairstylist, so I can't do that with light. I can't move hair with light. So that'll be a no on that one. Okay.
I want to ask a couple of questions. Sorry.
Go ahead.
So flags can be white and it's okay? Or do I need a black? Flags, you're using flags?
Yes, yeah.
It can be white or?
Yes, generally speaking, if you use a black piece of card as a flag, you're going to get more precision. If you use a white piece of card, it's going to bounce some light around where you might want it or where you might not want it. So, this piece of card cost me 30 pence, and this piece of card cost me 30 pence. So I splurged and got both. And then I've got two of each. That's how I roll, So yeah. They're just bits of card that are lying around the studio. So I tend to grab whatever's closest to hand, unless I know specifically that I need a black flag or specifically that I need a white flag. I wouldn't worry about it too much, but while you're in the art store or wherever you're going to go to get them, get a couple of each, and then you can play around.
And another question was, you were asking her to go into position 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
Are those set positions
for
that you
dance.
told her about?
They're positions for dance. Valentina's a trained dancer, so if you work with anyone who's a dancer, even if you don't know what it means, just say second position and watch, and they'll do it. It's like a reflex for them, and then they think that you know what you're talking about, but you don't have to, because they'll do it. There you are. Okay, folks, we're going to wrap up there. Firstly, hold on, how do I do this? I'm going to unmute over here. If you would be so kind as to say thank you to Valentina.
Gracias, Valentina.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Valentina.
Valentina.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
There we are. Okay, folks. Oh, sorry, I'm going to have to mute that again, otherwise I'm getting an echo. If you've seen that and you don't have something to put in for the Portrait Probe contest this month, well, then I don't really know what else I can do. But bear in mind that you also need a one light shot for your portraitist portfolio. So maybe this is the month to get started on that as well. Who knows? Anyway, we'll see you all back here next week. Have a good one.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Ivan.
Thanks, Ivan.
Thank you, Ivan. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.